Hey everyone, it's Michelle here with Scrappy Chic, and today's demo is going to be with Distress Oxide Sprays. We are going to do a background technique using Distress Oxide Sprays, and I watched a video the other day, and Tim recommended that when you're using your sprays, you shake them up and then you lay them on their side so that you have to do less shaking when you go to use them. So I'm going to jump right in. The first thing we're going to do is this ombre effect with the sprays here. So I picked a few colors. I'm going to try Antique Linen, Fossilized Amber, Wild Honey, and Abandoned Coral to give me my ombre effect. So what you'll do is you will take, this is a piece of the mixed media heavy stock. It takes, it takes a lot of water really well, so that's a good paper to use. You could use watercolor paper, you could use tags, but a mixed media or a watercolor type paper is the best because you're going to use a lot of liquid on it. So the first thing you'll do is put a few spritzes of water on there, and then at the top, and I like to do it a little diagonal like this because it's easier for me to spray. You're going to spray across like this. So there's our top spray. Here's our next spray. And next one. And then the last one is going to be the Abandoned Coral. Like that. A spot of water. And then what I'm doing next is I'm putting another piece of the same cardstock right on top, smashing it down, and that kind of blends the inks a little bit. And then, ta-da! So now remember, these are oxides, so they will blend really nicely and they'll be kind of milky in color. I'm gonna get that little bit of greenness that probably came up off my craft mat from something else I was doing. And then they react with water, so that's why we sprayed the water on them. So when they dry, you can see you've got a nice ombre effect, and I really like that one. But then I'll show you that if you took a little bit of this ink and kind of dabbed it on there, you get a little bit of a different effect. Sprinkled some water instead of spraying it. See, I didn't clean my craft mat off very well, so we'll get a little bit of green. I don't have a problem with that. And then when you dry that, the water will react with the oxide and make it oxidize. Dab it a little, because those spots were heavy in water. So then we'll just dry that one. And you can see where we picked up that extra ink and then added some water. Of course, I'll keep spraying a little bit, maybe some ground espresso, and then put some water on it to make it react. And then we'll dry. The oxides are fun because you never really know what you're going to get when you add the water to it. But I do always get a really good blend, and it's always such a creamy, milky color, which is one of the things that I like about the oxides. So you can see there the fun splatters with the ink and the water. If you needed to cut some shapes, I don't know, leaves or flower petals or something like that, this would be an awesome piece of paper to cut those out of. All right, now let's do this one. This is fun. So what we did here, and you know what, I'm gonna clean my craft mat a little so that we don't have all those colors mixing. All right, see, look, I had a lot of green on there apparently. Okay, so again with the mixed media cardstock. So what I did to get this effect was I sprayed some water on the paper and I started with one of the middle of the road colors. In this case, Mermaid Lagoon. And I just sprayed around a little bit. And then in between, I did a little bit of drying. And that just gets the ink dry so that the colors don't blend, and then you get the layers instead of the mixing of the colors. And you don't have to dry it all the way, but this ink does dry fairly quickly. And then I took some crushed olive. And then a little bit of drying. So you can see where it was still wet, you get a little bit of the mixing of the blue and the green. But otherwise you're just getting a layer built on top. So we'll dry this. And then I am going to add a lighter blue in there just to give it a little bit of depth. And this is Broken China. Try that one. The thing that takes the longest is the drying in between. Okay, and then the last color that I added was a darker color. It was the ground espresso. And I just kind of sprayed a little bit in the empty areas, like so. Put a little bit of water on top. And then dry it so you can see how the water reacts and you get that puddling because you were on another layer on top of the other colors. The way that the oxides react with water and heat are it's so vintagey and it's just so grungy, and I just love it so much. But you could certainly use lighter colors like I did with the yellows and the oranges and still get that water reacting, the little spots and things like that. Just gives you a really nice textured background. So in this case, now that this is, I'm going to dab it a little, save some time. Now that this is mostly dry, then what we do is you can use the Distress sprayer, and instead of pumping it all the way to get a mist, you can kind of half pump it and you get like droplets instead of a full spray. So you can do that. I don't know if you can see that on the paper, the way that the water is. So it's kind of blobby instead of sprayed. So if you let that sit so that it reacts with the ink a little bit, and then you'll get two different effects. If you let that air dry, it kind of continues to wick and move out through the paper, but if you dry it with a heat gun, you just kind of get that watermark, and I love both ways. You can see, and I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but the ink is kind of swirling around in the water there. And when you let that dry by itself, you kind of, that look kind of stays. So you've got the the milkiness of the oxide and the ink kind of mixing around. And the way that the oxides work is it's a blend of pigment ink and dye ink. If you're using the Distress Spray inks, those are just pigment inks, so that's just color. So you get a really bright color, and while it still reacts with water, it doesn't oxidize like the oxides do. I'm gonna move it along a little bit here. So you can see the drips that you get there, and you can go again. Now if you took the water sprayer and kind of did that and let it sit for a minute and then rolled it off with your paper towel, what you're gonna get are like, you're gonna lift the ink off, so you kind of get white spots like that. So alrighty, there you go. A couple more techniques for using your Distress Oxide sprays this time. Really, really fun. Lots of ways that, you know, this was just a mop-up that I used. And then what you could do is also take one of the other colors, and instead of spraying, you can drip and do some splattering. And when those splatters dry, you'll see the other color that when it oxidizes that it changes into. So some of them have a brown tone. Some of them, if it's a brown, they have a green. This one could just, this was fossilized amber. It could just have a darker coral around the edge, which you can kind of see that that's how that is turning out to be. So you've got the coral and then it just gets a little darker around the splat. So it gives a very interesting look. And you can keep building layers and layers and layers, or you can stop when you're ready. You can use these as backgrounds on cards. You could do this on layouts. You could create these different techniques on paper and use for die cuts. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with this technique. And there you can see how, maybe you can't, can you? It's a little bit darker coral around the edge of the splatter, which is just really interesting how it reacts. All right, Scrappy Chic has all of the Distress Oxides in stock. They've got the Distress Sprayer, and we've got the mixed media cardstock in stock as well. You can place an online order at www.scrappychiclivonia.com. If the items that you're looking for are not on the website, please send an email to info@scrappychiclivonia.com. If you do a project using one of these techniques that we've been showing in our demos, please post it and make sure that you, can you even see that hashtag anymore? It's all splattered. Make sure you hashtag it. Hashtag Scrappy Chic DDD, Daily Demo Display. Wednesday's the last day to enter into the contest, and we'll be putting all of the names of the people that have shared projects on Facebook or Instagram in a hat and pulling for a $40 gift certificate to spend at Scrappy Chic. All right, everybody, thanks for joining us. Stay safe.